Okay, so next up we have Alien 3, which was released in 1992. This film was not particularly well received upon its initial release by the critics, and the general audience at large just didn't particularly like this film, and I was one of those people. Not that it was particularly bad, it just seemed incredibly mediocre, run of the mill, nothing special, just some people being killed one by one by the alien, and not much in the way of the story that was interesting or hooked you. Special effects weren't great, um, so it just got very middle of the road, middling reviews, and I'm one of those people who felt that way. But it's a film that, over the years, upon its release upon VHS and then DVD, it gathered a bit more of an appreciation. Not to say it was a great film. Still, it was just, perhaps it wasn't as bad as we'd made it out to be when it first came out in the cinema. Um, but particularly, it's worth noting with the Alien quadrilogy, on terrible title, on DVD that was released. It actually included the work print of Alien 3. As for those who don't know, Alien 3 went through a lot of hard times on its production. It went through so many scripts by different people and different ideas, and it became a kind of, the script as it was when they started filming was kind of a mishmash of various scripts that had been written. And it went into production without actually a complete script. That's just such a bad idea, and mostly when that happens in a film, it's always leads to trouble when you haven't got a complete script. David Fincher directing the film, gone on to have great respect with films such as Seven and particular favourite of mine, Zodiac. But when he did Alien 3, this was his first feature film. Before that, he was known for doing music videos, that kind of stuff, commercials. And so he was under the foot of the studio bosses a lot of the time making this film. He had to be a yes man. He tried to fight that, I think, but he didn't have any clout, any power to do so. And the studio really did their best to completely ruin Alien 3. But it's a credit to Fincher that the film, as it is, it looks great, and it's got his trademark look to it. And what I was saying was that the quadrilogy on DVD actually had the work print of Alien 3. Fincher has since distanced himself from the film, completely doesn't talk about it, but they had the assembly cut, which is what they work off of as they're editing the film together. It's had all this missing footage that wasn't in the actual theatrical release. And that film, watching it as an assembly cut, as a work print, was so much better. It was like, wow, this is the film it really should have been. It had so much extra stuff that was cut out. The whole character arc for Paul McGann's character was completely cut in the theatrical release, and it's also the best part of the film. It's the best character. It's the most fascinating, interesting part. To get rid of that was insanity, frankly. So watching it on DVD all those years later was like, oh wow, this has gone up on my list of favourite Alien movies. And it certainly at that point with work prints overtook Aliens for me, which, as I said in my previous review, I'm not a huge fan of to begin with, but certainly it was better than a lot better than the theatrical cut of Alien 3. But then with the recent Blu-ray collection of the Alien films, Alien Anthology, I believe it is, they've got, again, the work print assembly cut of the film. But what they've done for the Blu-ray, and this is great, because the problem with the assembly cut before was that on DVD, was that it had missing parts in terms of dialogue. There was hissing and sounds from the set in certain scenes, and special effects weren't quite finished, and it let it down. It made it feel even more like a incomplete film in a way, even though the story was all restored. But with the Blu-ray, they've actually done a lot to try and sort that out. They got the original actors back where needed and got them to re-record their lines so they could dub it over and create a nice, clean, consistent audio throughout the whole thing. Even created a new special effect for the bursting of the alien, which in the assembly cut occurs from an ox, not from a dog, as was the case with the original theatrical cut. So they did a lot to really help it, and now, I've watched it a couple of times now on Blu-ray, and it is now for me it's getting up to being close to the first Alien. I think it's a great film, a wonderful proper spiritual successor to the original Alien. Um, Wonderful film. It needs to be watched. It still has, I'd say, one clear flaw for me, and that's the special effects still from the alien running around the tunnel. That's theatrical and assembly cut. They still look so badly composed in. It's actually a rod puppet that they used for those, and it's beautifully done. You can watch the making of them, the DVDs. Beautifully done rod puppet, and the movement's amazing. But the way it's composited into the footage of the sets and so on, it's so bad. The matte lines around it, and it's just so obviously not there. So that's a shame. But aside from that, now it's an incredibly good film, Alien 3. Thinking about it, there is another flaw actually with the film. It's the opening. It's revealed there was an egg on the Sulaco from the end of Aliens, and that doesn't actually really make any sense. I mean, how did that get there? It's just never really explained, and I doubt the people who were writing the script knew why it was there. I suppose the only argument you can come up with is the alien queen at the end of Aliens when she was chasing them around on the Sulaco, get away from her, you bitch, and all that. That she laid it then, but that you watch the film End of Aliens, and no, I don't see where she would have been laying an egg in a corner of the hypersleep room on the Sulaco. It doesn't really follow. So you just have to, I guess, at least it's at the very beginning of the film, so you can just overcome it, just accept it, and just artistic license, whatever, and then you can just enjoy the film. After the last film, Aliens, which, like I said in my review of that retrospective, that was very much a fantasy, happily ever after kind of a film. And Alien 3, for me at least, thankfully, it goes back to the gritty, real feeling future that the original Alien took place in. And I know there's a lot of people who dislike Alien 3 perhaps more than any other reason, that they killed off Newt and Hicks at the very beginning of the film. I've never really got that argument myself. I guess people love those characters, but I mean, what do they want the series, the franchise to become? Do they want it like, oh, now they're going to be a family unit, and Ripley and family face the aliens every film? I don't know. I mean, I guess that's people who like Cameron's film as an action film, and fair enough. But like I said, I'm a fan for it for the horror, and it seems only appropriate to me that they would be killed off for Alien 3. And that it also, ties into the whole thematics of what the third film is actually about at its heart. It's about loss. It's all about the loss of life, and there's that great speech by Dylan, whereas about loss of life and the birth, as with every death there is a new seed within the flower and so on. And then that's, as he's saying that, it's the funeral for the Newton Hicks and the birth of the alien intercut into that is, it's a great moment, and it just summarises what the film's about. It's about loss, and it's about redemption. How can you redeem yourself when you've sinned for the prisoners, and how can Ripley redeem her loss and her sadness and hatreds, or perhaps not hatred's the right word, but relationship she's had forced upon her with this creature. how can she resolve that? And she, kills herself at the end, commits suicide as an act of sacrifice to take the alien with her into the fire and not allow the company Wayland's Yutani to take it off and her and potentially kill millions of innocent lives through its bioweapon division. So yeah, I just don't really know why people moan about the loss of Newton Hicks. I certainly personally wouldn't have wanted to have seen an Alien 3 where it would have been what I said. The family unit, it's like a TV series, like, or something, like every week. Join us next week when Ripley and friends once again defeat those nasty little aliens. Bang bang boom, alien. It's not what I wanted, and I'm glad it didn't take that route. I'm not saying you're wrong if you do think that, but you're wrong. No, it's everyone's opinion, that's fine. So that's Alien 3, and next we're going to go on to, after this wonderful return to form with Alien 3, we're going on to Alien Resurrection, which, does it maintain that return to form? I think anyone who's seen it probably knows the answer to that. See you next time.